The story of Final Destination Bloodlines is kicked off by Stefani's Skyview Premonition, and while it seems like a plot hole now, it may have just confirmed the franchise's most twisted theory. Premonitions have been key to the Final Destination franchise since the very beginning, and while all sorts of premonitions have been had across the 6 movies, they have followed a fairly strict set of rules. Final Destination Bloodlines, however, completely changes this, with Stefani's premonition being unlike any of the franchise's previous ones. While the previous Final Destination movies have been criticized for essentially telling the same story over and over again, Final Destination Bloodlines fixes this by doing something new with the formula. This time, one of the survivors of Death's plans has managed to survive for decades, with her having children and grandchildren since she cheated Death. Once she is killed off, Death now has to get rid of the children and grandchildren who were never supposed to be born. Thus, the descendants must survive, learning about the rules of Death from longtime survivor Iris Campbell. How does Stefani's Skyview nightmare make sense? There's only one in-universe explanation that fits. Stefani Reyes is the granddaughter of Iris Campbell, the seer who survived the Skyview disaster in 1968 and has avoided Death's attempts on her life since. When Final Destination Bloodlines begins, Stefani has been having a recurring nightmare about the Skyview Tower disaster, which she realizes is about her grandmother. This causes her to seek out Iris, who she eventually finds. Iris reveals that Stefani's dream is actually the premonition she had in 1968, and goes on to explain the rules of Death. She eventually allows herself to finally be killed so her granddaughter will believe her. Stefani's Skyview nightmare is unlike any of the Final Destination franchise's other premonitions for several reasons. Firstly, she isn't seeing the future. Her dream is a copy of another character's original premonition, meaning that it isn't helping any characters survive Death. Secondly, Stefani's vision is in the form of a dream, whereas the other seers seem to have visions of their future while awake. Finally, Stefani doesn't have any other premonitions throughout the film, and instead tries to predict Death's plans by reading the signs she learned from Iris' book. One fan theory seems to perfectly explain why Stefani's Skyview nightmare is different. Death has been trying to kill Iris for decades, to no avail. Her seclusion and preparedness have allowed her to avoid every trap that Death has set, with a slow death from cancer seemingly the only option left. It is possible that Death decided to use a new method to kill Iris, sending Stefani the dream in order to draw Iris out. Although this would break some of Death's pre-established rules, it may have been desperate after so long, and using Iris' granddaughter is what finally worked. Is Death the source of all Final Destination premonitions? It's been theorized, and Bloodlines might have subtly confirmed it. If Death really did send Stefani's dream, it would confirm another popular Final Destination theory. Some fans have speculated that every premonition comes from Death, with the subsequent cleaning up of survivors being its way of letting loose and having fun. This would paint Death as more of a devilish trickster than the autofocus deity described by William Bloodworth. However, this would finally explain why these supernatural visions are given to seemingly random people. This would completely change the Final Destination franchise if true, making each of the characters' stories an even greater cosmic joke. If Death truly sends the premonitions, then nobody has truly cheated Death. They never had a chance to survive Death's design, as their deaths were always intended to arrive in this way. While there hasn't been much evidence within the franchise to support this, Stefani's dream might be Final Destination Bloodline's subtle way of confirming this dark theory is true.